I think it's a very good question. You remember that the president declared the National Youth Conference last year in his speech in 1st October, and which is due to happen in the first quarter of this year. And the objective of the National Youth Conference to ensure that youth are carried along in the activities of governance in order to bridge the gap between the government and the young people in Nigeria in the areas of education and employment and security and safety for young people. So the aim is to ensure that the young people, the gap between the government and the young people is bridged, where the agitations from the young people is being heard. Remember, in 2023 and in also 2024, we had, in the previous years, we have, the protest for the End SARS and the End Bad Governance, which has just emanated. So, and we believe that a majority of those who participated in that protest for the End Bad Governance are also young people, as well as End SARS. Now, the government of President Bola Tinubu intends to engage young people both at the community level and at all levels to ensure that the agitation from the youth is heard. That is the objective of the National Youth Conference.
So it's okay to say that the conference, in a way, is in response to the protests that the country witnessed that involved, to a large extent, young persons. I'm talking about the End Bad Governance protest and also that of the NSAS. Is it in response to these protests to bring the young generation closer?
It's not specifically in response to NSAS protests or End Bad Governance, but the generality of issues that affect the young people. There are issues, that has accumulated over the years. And of course, you remember the last time we had a national conference was in 2014, just like I have said during the previous interview. And it's been almost 10 years now. And of course, you remember one of the key aspects that hindered implementation of the conference is lack of sustainability and continuity. For instance, the resolution for the 2014 conference, which also the National Youth Conference also held, side by side with the general national conference that happened in 2014. So we are looking at the over-accumulated problem of young people and go to the root cause and also take it down to the community level to see what the community are saying in how they want the Nigeria we want. Because, of course, the success of all nations, is built upon the development of the young people. When you want to ensure sustainability, you have to also ensure that the young people are being heard, are empowered, and also are employed in order for you to have a successful nation, in order for you to realize, development. So the idea of the National Youth Conference is not just, in response to End Bad Governance or in response to NSAS. It's part of it, but it's not only the reason why the president wants to have the National Youth Conference.
Okay.
But it's also to hear from the young people, to hear the agitation, also to propose solutions. And if you remember in the comment of the president, he said, I'm here for you, and I'm with you, and I'm willing to implement whatever the outcome of the National Youth Conference is.
Well, for some young persons, they will say, these agitations or these challenges that they faced are voiced, almost on a daily. Even on social media, you can almost tell what these young persons are going for, hence why the need for a conference. But my next question to you would be the process of selection, because you use the word participation. It's an opportunity to interface directly with young persons. So that brings to the fore, how will you select, or what's the process of selecting those that will be a part of the conference? How are they selected?
Now, if you look at the committee, which I believe that the government will make available, the membership of the committee, they are selected from both state level, zonal level, and also interministerial, and also interagencies, most especially within the United Nations system. We have the representative of even the United Nations Interagency Group on Youth Development, and also we have also representative both from the House of Representatives and the Senate, whom are also represented in the committee. And now, remember I said that we are going to have a National Youth Conference also that go down to the grassroots level, which means that you should expect the selection of the participation that will come both from the civil society, from the government, and from the community leaders at the community level in terms of the level of participation. So the National Youth Conference do not intend to leave everyone behind. The National Committee has been set up, and also there is going to be a framework for that selection. But be rest assured that the selection procedure also and the criteria would also include the grassroots. When I say the grassroots, including the community leaders, youth leaders at the community level, and youth leaders both from the formal and informal sector.
I mean, one would also expect that an average young person can just go online somewhere and register. I mean, people attend conferences across the world where instead of you being invited, you can actually register if you choose to be a part of it. Without having to know any minister or know any commissioner or be affiliated with any party. So are there arrangements in that direction? And are you also considering online platforms like maybe Twitter, for instance, where people can actually be a part of it? Maybe a Twitter space, how inclusive in terms of the selection, is your ministry, going in terms of participation and selection?
Yes, so it's good that you mentioned the issue of participation. You remember the comment of the president during the inauguration. He mentioned about there are rapid revolving issues, including technology, which will not also be left behind. The idea is to have participation, and that participation also will create platform for both social media and mainstream media to ensure that a lot of voices are heard. We do not intend to keep the conversation only on the social media and online, but we will also create those platforms in order to enable participation. Our belief is that we have a lot of young people from the informal sector who there are communities that do not even have access to internet as I speak to you, or they don't have even the smartphones to join these platforms. So those communities can be represented by the selected youth leaders at ward level or at local government level, who would also who will also amplify the voices of those communities as well. So in terms of participation, we will try as much as possible to ensure that no one is left behind, including people with disability.
All right. Just also to clear the air, there are some that believe that this conference has a strong political undertone.
Political undertone? I don't think so. I don't think so, because if you look at the selection criteria, the government, most especially the Honorable Minister and the government of Nigeria did not actually base the selection based on either political party affiliation. Just like I have said to you, we have interministerial, we have committees from cross-cutting from different ministries and MDAs. So I imagine you have a committee that has civil servants, which are mostly not politicians. And also we have youth groups. For instance, we have the National Youth Council being represented, which are also not a political organization. The Nigerian Youth Parliament also is also represented by their speaker. And of course, the president of the National Youth Council is also represented. And the committees of essays on youth, because the special assistant on youth development across 36 states, they also have their committee, and they also have their own representative there. And of course, just like I have said, we have representative from the United Nations Interagency group on youth development. These are not political organizations, so it's not about politics. When it comes to national development, we don't consider political affiliation. Of course, our mandate as a government, as the government of APC, is to ensure that youth are empowered and are protected and also are supported. But that does not mean also we are going to be selecting those young people from the political party perspective. But we are more focused on our national interests and our national development.
I mean, the young population constitutes about 60%. Even the president alluded to that. Over 60% of Nigeria's population. And your ministry is at the center of it, the Ministry of Youth Development. I mean, that's a huge responsibility, for your ministry, looking at this particular statistic. So I'm going to ask you a question directly. What does your ministry consider the top 3 problems of the average Nigerian youth?
Yes. You see, earlier this year, the Honorable Minister have adopted a strategy that we call SEP. The S stand for support, the E stand for empower, and the P stand for protect. Each of these categories of, either support, empower, or protect have identified certain activities that aim at addressing the challenges of young people. In generality, these youths that are over 70%, including myself, majority of young people are not employed, and most of them from the informal sector. Our priority is to ensure that our policies and programs are aimed at, empowering youth, and protecting them. The Honorable Minister has adopted the Nigerian Youth Health Desk, which we have also speak about that in our various media outlets. And this youth health desk also aim at supporting young people in terms of having a rapid response for the issues.
Marwan, I really did not ask what the minister is doing. I said, what does your ministry consider 3 major problems of the average Nigerian youth?
That is what I have mentioned to you, that the issues of unemployment.
Unemployment, one. The second?
Unemployment is part of the issues, and then the issues of supporting and the protection of young people, in terms of creating safe space for young people to thrive.
So are you saying insecurity is also a problem of the average Nigerian youth?
Insecurity is part of the problem, because if you look at our budget over the previous years, it's more centered on the budget of Nigeria. It's more centered on security. And why do we have that? Because we have issues of Boko Haram, we have issues of banditry, we have issues of the IPOP and other related issues that are cross-cutting. In each region have its own peculiar issues. And if you look at the average perpetrators in those activities are young people. And we have also identified that one of the key reasons why this problem happened, let's take, for instance, the banditry, for example, that is happening across the northern Nigeria. If you look at that, you would understand that most of those young people that participated, some of them have not been to school. And because, they do not have that opportunity to have those schools in their environment over 30 to 35 years ago. And they grew up in that community, disconnected completely from feeling the government, or even, being closer to government, or being closer to being employed or educated.
All right, Marwan, you've mentioned 2 problems already. Let's have the third one. What do you consider the third challenge of the average Nigerian youth?
Yeah, and I've mentioned unemployment, and I've mentioned issues of issue of insecurity, and also we have lack of skills. Lack of skills is also one of the issues. Yes.
And that doesn't. Okay, please continue.
Yeah. Yes, and these skills, because there is skills mismatch. We wanted to have a country where young people will have a skill that they can be able to thrive. You don't have to be a graduate of the university, because some cannot even afford it for you to be able to. But you need to have a skill that can be able to
I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to stay with you on the lack of skills. So are you saying that our curriculum, in terms of maybe what is being taught in schools, are outdated and need to be rejigged? I mean, where can we trace the problem of not having the right skills? Is it from the quality of education, or, please expand on this more. How can we trace this problem? Where is it coming from? Is it our quality of education here?
No, just let me let you know that our mandate as a ministry is to ensure that our policies and programs are centered around youth development. However, just like you have said, the youth development cannot be measured or cannot be achieved without identifying what the young people need in the area of education. For example, the Global Youth Development Index, which was published in 2020 in collaboration with the Commonwealth Secretariat, have identified 6 domains for youth development. And one of these domains is education. And education also includes issues around just like the skills I have said. If you look at our education curriculum and the process of implementation, you may find out that we have policies that are already there. But when it comes to implementation and adhering strictly to those implementation strategies, you will find out that there is problem in that. Also, I want to believe that we also have a curriculum that needs to be updated. When I said updated is we need to look at those things that are not working in our curriculum and ensure that they address the need of the 21st century, for example. Issues around AI has to be taught in school. Even at the primary level, people need to begin to have more. Because just like I have said, in a rapid evolving world, you need to have this digital education being, taught in schools, and also preparing young people for that. When it comes to the area of vocational skills, of course, we need also to do more. But one of the key challenges is that many things are centered on the federal government. Over 60% of delivering quality education in this country lies on the hands of the state government. The budgets and the provision of infrastructure. It also lies on the responsibilities of the state government. So this has been really a challenging factor. And until and unless everyone is responsible and accountable, that is when we will have a nation. We won't have a nation when everyone is not being accountable to his or her responsibility.
All right, Marwan.
So for us to have that development, we need to have a system with that, which is the primary focus of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu.
Okay, I'm just quickly still going to stay on the issue of education. Also, what is the ministry doing as regards the cost of education right now? We know that there's the student loan, but even with that, you look at the percentage of those that even have access to it, and the extent at which it's even serving these students. If you look at it, in retrospect to the reality, it's almost, there are still gaps. So my question to you is this. Even in public universities these days, what they pay as school fees, what they pay as tuition fees to other utility bills, I mean, it's almost competitive with private university. And one would expect that for a government school, there should be some level of rebate. Many of these leaders are products of these public schools, and many of them will tell you that the amount they paid as school fees, it was pretty much small. That's not the reality right now for the average Nigerian youth. Many of them are dropping out of school. So my question is, what is your ministry doing about this?
Okay, just like I've said, our main target as a government and as a Ministry of Youth, our major policy document is the National Youth Policy. And our National Youth Policy in Nigeria identified young people to be between the age of 15 to 30. And which means that our mandate is to look around issues that affect young people at that age bracket. But remember, by the time you reach the age of 15, some have already graduated from the secondary schools. In the ministry, we have a Department of Education and Youth Development, which also drive the process of the National Youth Policy. And this National Youth Policy have also identified 6 thematic areas, including vocational education training for young people and issues around addressing skills development and all of that. Now, our ministry is targeting this group to ensure that for out-of-school children and even the youth from the informal sector who have not also been to school before are also engaged, are also empowered. Of course, we may not do it alone and we may not solve all the problems, but at least we can minimize it. We can do more in trying to ensure that a lot of young people are developed and are also empowered. Let me give you a specific example. This year, we will be launching a youth renewable energy project, just like we did in the youth economic engagement and youth economic intervention and de-radicalization program. Our efforts to engage young people in agro-allied value chain. So, series of activities are happening under the ministry to ensure that we address the issues affecting young people at the community level. But in the area of education, most of the specific questions you ask, are domiciled in the Ministry of Education, which we do not want to interfere. But also,
why don't you think your ministry should interfere? I mean, education affects largely the youth, which falls within your purview, your domain.
Yes, when I said interference, it doesn't mean that hindrance. When I said, what I'm saying is for us is to develop policy and also to have an informed decision to make sure that the government have an enabling data they need in order to solve problem.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. The Special Assistant to the President on Youth Initiative Monitoring and Delivery has also launched what we call a youth activity dashboard, where the youth development project that is cross-cutting, domiciled in ministries and MDAs, and are identified. Also, others that are also being done by the development partners and non-governmental organizations. So for us as a government, we take data as a very, very important aspect. And also remember, data is anything that you need, to ensure that you make a right decision. So ours is to ensure that these young people that are within the age bracket that is being identified by our mandate, the government, specifically the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor and Productivity, the National Director of Employment, and other MDAs are able to get these data in order to include them in their policies and also in their implementation strategy.
Okay, now talking about implementation, I'm sorry, we are really pressed for time and we're trying to manage it. Marwan, Nigeria has had many conferences on a national level over the years. We've had monies being voted, money spent, people attending, white paper comes out of it. By the end of the day, these things end up gathering dust. What is being done to ensure that this does not toe that line? Whereby at the end of the day, we talk, but there is no action.
Yes, so for us, we are very specific in the area of, for us, we are very specific in the area of youth development and youth initiative. We've just passed, the president just signed a budget, the 2025 budget. And for the first time over years, we are having a budget in the Ministry of Youth Development that is more than what has been allocated before. And in the area of implementation, we are trying to collaborate, or let me even mention that we are collaborating with relevant stakeholders, including ministries and MDS, to ensure effective implementation and also monitoring and evaluation of the challenges, including having a regular meeting with the UN Interagency on Youth Development and the Interministerial Committee, just like we did a technical working group, for the implementation of National Youth Policy, which also aim to identify the youth development projects that are domiciled in other ministries and to ensure that there is a regular meeting to ensure effective implementation. And where there are challenges, that is why we agreed to be having those quarterly meetings.
Are you also
questions?
Okay, great. Are you also considering the jackpot syndrome and Nigerian youth in diaspora?
Yes, we realize that we have issues of labor migration, both legal and illegal labor migration in this country. And what we are trying to do is to ensure that our national interest is protected in terms of our national integration and discussing with relevant stakeholders to ensure that, one, if, for instance, young people are being migrated to other countries, is for the benefit of Nigeria. When I said the benefit of Nigeria as a country, is to ensure that places they are going, they have gone there legally, and they are able to learn skills and come back to the country to invest, and come back to a country so that this country can benefit from the skills they have learned. There is no problem about legal labor migration, which is part of the activities being implemented by the Federal Ministry of Youth Development in collaboration with the GIZ and IMO. We are doing a lot of program with the GIZ on legal labor migration.
Okay.
And also, we also identified a specific area where young people that have come back to the country could also have support, both from the development partners to ensure that the skills they learn is benefited by the country. That is our national interest, and that is our priority.
All right, Marwan Umar-Gwamba, thank you so much for your time. SSA to the Minister of Youth Development and International Cooperation and NGOs. It's been a privilege. Thank you for your time.